Hi everyone. Welcome to this lovely conversation that we are going to have today with the author Srinath Rao, and we are very excited to host him today for his book that he's come up, which is Mew Mew, and we are excited to have him on board. I just started a little early so that more people can join us, and we can have more people joining us, and we can have this amazing conversation today. So stay tuned. We'll just invite the author in a bit, and session today, and definitely no spoilers that we're going to give today. It's going to be a no spoiler discussion on the latest book by the author. So we'll just we'll wait for another couple of minutes, and we'll start, wherein I'll invite the author. But this is extremely I'm very happy to have him today, and he was very gracious enough to say yes to us to come and be a part of this discussion. So hi Neeraj.
Hello, Ekta. How are you? I'm so excited for the conversation tonight.
Same here. I'm equally excited. I'm so looking forward to this, and I think this is going to be a fantastic talk. The book is. I want to unravel more on it with the author, and also wanted to find out that how he has written the book. There are a lot of questions, but of course we are not going to give away any spoilers today. So we'll just wait. I'm just waiting for 1 minute before we invite him, because we've just scheduled this for. In the meanwhile, I'll just invite Amir. Yeah, so then he can join. But how was your journey to read, this book in particular, and how did you like it?
So, Ekta, it was a slight departure from what I'm actually used to reading because I am a fiction guy, like you know, and I'm sure that was the case with you as well. So, this was really refreshing. It was really something new that I.
Hi.
Hi, Amir.
Hi, Neeraj.
Hi,
Hi,
Amir.
Ekta.
Oh,
Hi,
hi.
hi.
Hi, Srinath.
How
How
are you
are
doing?
you?
Hi.
Hello.
How are you? So glad to have you here.
Oh, same. It's the same. I'm quite happy to be speaking to you. Neeraj. And I've spoken to
Awesome.
a book club before. I don't think I've been part of a book club before, so
Oh, wow. So
it's
we
a
are the
first on
first.
many levels. Yes.
Amazing. That makes us more happy. But yeah, thank you so much for accepting this invite.
Uh,
And you were so gracious enough to say yes to us for the very first time we approached you while we were reading your book. And so happy to have you here.
Same. Thanks for having me.
So let me just quickly introduce, the two fellow avid readers with me. So I have with
Hmm.
me Neeraj,
Hello, Neeraj.
and I also have with me Amir. So Amir is also a filmmaker.
Hi, hi,
Hi,
Sri.
Amir. Hi. Hi.
And all of us are avid readers from the club, Reader Kitab, and a lot of people from the club are also going to join us. And those who are not able to join will definitely go back and check out this live, I'm sure.
I'm
But
sure.
Srinath, should we start? I mean, we are so excited to talk to you and discuss this.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig right in. Yeah.
Sure. So Srinath, we were just kind of looking into this while we were reading this book. We
Hmm.
also saw how you've been working, and we've seen that you've been done a lot of crime reporting for Reliance, for cyber crimes, etc. So to begin with, just wanted to ask you, how did this story in particular kind of inspired you, and this was something that you thought should be the one that I should be writing a book on.
I mean, honestly, I had no thoughts about writing a book forever. I mean, it wasn't a conscious decision. This just happened to be a story I knew quite well. I'd been on it for a good number of years from day one to when it was finally resolved. And again, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I'd first heard through a friend that someone else is looking to do a book into this, and that friend told me, "Don't let anyone else do this. Like, you know the story quite well. Don't miss out on this." And there's a point where I never thought I'd be writing a book. It's daunting. I always found it. I found the idea very daunting. Just the fact of approaching reporting and writing books. So I know So just to beat off any competition, I just didn't want to miss out. So pretty much just that. I mean,
So FOMO we can consider.
I guess yes, in the worst form, yes, FOMO in the worst form, yes. I could not imagine not someone else doing it.
Right,
Amazing.
right. So I have a question for you, Sri.
Yeah,
Basically, it's written in the book also, like the cardinal rule of crime reporting is that you don't do it the thing substance yourself, let's say. And
yeah.
in other stories, like you would have followed. I just wanted to ask, like as a crime journalist, where do you draw the line between your personal safety and following the story honestly?
See, in Mumbai, that's not, I mean, the safety is not an issue I have to think of or be concerned with anymore. We don't live in those times, thankfully. From what I know, those were times in the 80s and the 90s, maybe early 2000s. Thankfully, those conditions don't exist anymore, and I'm very grateful for that. So, I mean, see, it's then, of course, there are stories where you may later feel you might be at risk. That's all about how you chase those. I mean, how you look at your own safety. Um, I mean, even if you know a place very well, you will always think, you'll always be prepared. I mean, where you're going, how you're
Yes.
going to go about doing this. If you're going to put yourself in situations where you think there might be something of a risk. Thankfully, I'm not encountered that in Mumbai. Like I said, those conditions don't exist anymore.
Right.
There are obviously, I mean, but there are, of course, certain assignments, certain places you can go to where you can get into trouble. I mean, honestly, it could be maybe like a dilapidated, empty area. That's always
Yeah.
the case. In any city, there are places you should not possibly go alone or at night, definitely not. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how to answer that question, but maybe Bombay's, you could call it relatively or quite safe that way. I mean, there are not too
And
many conditions or places where you put yourself at risk. Unless maybe if you're reporting or in a situation where there's like a large gathering or a mob or something like that, there and that doesn't matter where you are or what kind of place you're in. You could be in Bombay or anywhere else. So
Right.
pretty much
Right.
that.
and that too, coming from a crime reporter, we have to trust the word.
I mean, I hope so.
And I was also wondering that I was just looking at Amir's shirt, and he's got in form, and he's come with all that the drug theme.
Yeah, I noticed. I did notice. It's a very appropriate choice of shirt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And speaking about the times that we are living in, I mean, in the book, you somewhere also have mentioned that it was, the main characters. She says one place that why the case is receiving so much of attention. Is it just because I'm a woman, or is it just because? So I wanted to kind of also ask that if I mean we know that men are also involved into a lot
Yeah,
of the similar crimes. So do you
yeah.
also subscribe to the same thing that because it was a woman, society, police, media, everyone kind of looked at this particular case from a different angle because it's okay for men probably to we are a little lenient with men, but when it comes to a woman, it was probably came as a shock to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, because I mean, the case did receive that kind of attention because it was, I mean, a woman involved in a relationship with a policeman. So, at the base of that, it was that. I mean, it did get disproportionate coverage. That was one reason. Two was just how, I mean, scandalous that whole thing was. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, that tilted the coverage in a way. I mean, it happens all. I mean, sadly, it does happen all the time. But in that case, definitely that was one major factor for the initial coverage going the way it was.
So for you
Right.
as a person who was reporting this as well as covering this, and then after later on decided to write a book on this, how difficult or easy was you for you this undue attention on the case, if I can say that?
Yeah, I mean, since you asked the reason she didn't want attention is that by the time I approached her, I mean, to speak to her to get her version, she was sort of in the clear with the law. Um, so that's one reason she didn't want attention, because I mean, she'd almost been exonerated, more or less. I mean, and after that, then to get to then have any attention on the case on something that you're alleged to have done, but later you found out maybe not to have done it or got away for whatever reason. It's I guess it's normal tendency, right? Why would you want more attention? Why would you want more people thinking that maybe the more you speak, the more you expose yourself, the more people might think that, I mean, you want the story to die down, right? If you've been found not to have done something, you want to have the right to be forgotten, I guess, right? So, but in her case, I mean, since I took some time getting to know everyone involved, her lawyer, a baby herself. So over time, it was just, I mean, years and months of gaining trust. I mean, there were times when she didn't want to speak. I would say she still would not want to speak too often. I mean, she'd want to forget about it. But yeah, it was just years and months of speaking to a meeting, building trust. So after a point, it wasn't. I would not say getting access was easy, but after a point when she did decide to speak, after a point, it was okay.
Right. Right.
Also, coming back to the first question that I asked, about why did you pick up the story? So
Yeah.
again, I was kind of very curious when we were going through, the profile that you have and how you've been doing, you've been working and researching for so long on so many things. Just wanted to, circle back on that. Have you not been, kind of thinking about something else, and how this was such a special thing that you wanted to write about it? I mean, was it because there were a lot of, lot of elements involved in it? Like, there was so much to write about. Like, there was a drug scene going on. There was, all this police act. This was a thriller, a fast-paced thing, and, much more to it. So, was there any specific thing that you had in your mind? Because why I'm asking you this is because you, being a crime reporter, you must have seen the stories from a very, very near eye view. So why this story in particular, and what made you drawn towards it?
I mean, the more, the longer I was on it, the more interested I got in it, because there's so many twists and turns in it. I mean,
Yeah.
After like a couple of months into it, I mean, things changed so dramatically. And I mean, I got interested that way. I mean, as a reporter, you should be interested in stories you're writing about. First of all, I can't say I've always been interested in every story I've written about, but yeah, I mean, after a point, since I'd collected a lot of documentation, a lot of papers, pretty much everything there was filed by the police in court, and every other document from her own lawyers. So since I had this whole stack of papers, I had access to all these people. That's the whole reason I gave it a shot. I mean, to attempt it, because by then things had been resolved legally. I had access to all these documents, these people who I knew for quite some time, which is why, and of course, I mean, it's one of those stories. I mean, I've not come across too many stories like this, reporting wise, which have such a long shelf life. There's a handful of stories which go on for this long and keep you engrossed and keep you wanting to know what's happening yourself. I mean, in certain stories, after a point, maybe your attention span just wavers or something more important comes up. But this one just kept going, So I also wanted to be on top of it. I also wanted to know how it's going to end. So once it finally ended, and I decided I am going to give into that FOMO, I thought, let me attempt this. I am in a good position to attempt this.
Amazing. So a huge shout out to everybody who's just joined us, and we are speaking about Mew Mew. I think that's how we pronounce it, right, Srinath?
Meow meow.
Yeah.
Meow
Meow
It's like
meow.
the cat.
Okay.
Meow, meow.
So we're talking about Meow Meow, and we're talking with the author, Srinath Rao, and we are extremely excited about it. So if you are not listening it right now, you got to check out the entire video later on, and do buy this book, and you have to read the book as well. The other thing, coming back to the interview, just wanted to ask you that there has been so many characters. I mean, literally
Mhm.
every page you turn, there is a new character that the book talks about, because of the intricacy of it. The crime scene being so intricate and so many people involved in it. How easy or difficult it was for you as a writer to bring all of those characters together and do justice to that is my first point. And the second one,
Mhm.
how easy or difficult it was that you thought a reader would find to juggle between so many characters coming in and going, coming in and going, and the story being evolving. There is so much of
Mhm.
fast paced thing happening there.
Yeah.
So what's your viewpoint on this as a writer, and coming to the other side of the table as a reader?
Um, I'll start with your second question first because I mean that was a huge dilemma for me because the list of people is so long, and I have had people, friends and other readers telling me that there were too many people in the story. There was a
And
point
I
I
was
think
wondering,
where
Srinath, sorry to interrupt you. I was
no,
wondering
please.
if I can draw a flowchart, and so I can, populate everything. So in the initial pages, I had that trouble when I was reading it, but then, then it
It's
went linear, and I could understand it. But initially, I just felt it like, the Agatha Christie book, and then there were none. Where in the first 10 pages, you have so
yeah,
many characters, and you don't know how they are connected. But then,
yeah,
it all started
yeah.
making sense. So it would be very interesting to know from you what were your thoughts on it.
I think first of all, I think the time has come when a flowchart is required. I might have to put something out to simplify how these things go. Because, and thank you for telling me. It was a major concern for me. I mean, while I was writing it, because I wasn't in a position to not include all these people because
Absolutely.
um, so many people just happen to be involved, and
Hmm.
in a way or in one way or the other. I mean, though they might not be integral to the whole story, I just felt like I might certain things may be missing out, may be missed out if I left out a few names.
Absolutely.
It might not give maybe a reader a complete picture of the scope of maybe for say the police investigation part, which is where a lot of new characters come in, which is
Yeah.
where I face my biggest dilemma because I mean, like a lot of characters just come in, they exit,
Yeah.
and I don't do a very good job of explaining why they come and how they go. But in the back of my mind, I had to juggle those. I mean, um, am I conveying, will I be able to convey the scope of the things without, if I leave out a lot of people? And I thought, no, I may not be able to do such a good job. So I
Absolutely.
had to make that a very, it was tough, but um, the only way to resolve that dilemma, like you said, possibly a flowchart is required or something that simplifies how everything goes. And um, the other bit, I mean, the reason also there's so many people involved is I had to contact, interview, and meet a lot of those
Absolutely.
people. Um, Quite a lot of those. There's a lot of people who did not want to respond to, who did not want to speak for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of people I could not sadly contact. I tried my best to reach out to them, phone, lined up at their doorstep. But they just wouldn't speak. A lot of people, but also I did get cooperation, unexpected level of cooperation from a lot of people. So which is why I mean there's so many people because a good number of them decided to speak, and what they said made the story that much richer. So, but yes, it did come at the cost of having to juggle between the
Yeah.
list of
And
characters.
as
So
a
yeah, maybe something more advanced, maybe yeah, something on the lines of a flowchart. Let me
so as
think
a
of
tech
that and do something quickly about it.
So as a segue to this question, I was kind of thinking that, because so many characters are involved and you had to reach out to a lot of people and you had to make that conscious decision. And you
Yeah.
obviously decided to go with the non-fiction route because you were reporting it kind of.
Yeah.
And this is how we read it. So especially for me personally, I just was wondering whether if had this been a novel instead of, let's say, just a non-fiction piece on just
Yeah.
whatever happened, right? Would you have taken any liberty, creative liberties, and if so, what those creative liberties you would have taken?
Yeah, I mean, hypothetically, yeah. I mean, if I was ever tempted to fictionalize this, then I guess more in terms of dialogue. If you notice, there's not too much of it.
Yeah.
And this is not a situation where dialogue could be maybe assumed.
Hmm.
There is dialogue. There is only that much dialogue as happened or as I heard. So possibly, yeah. I mean, possibly one way I'd probably go about it is have a lot more conversation, dialogue between characters, and also maybe not populate it with so many characters. Maybe make it slightly easier to read in terms of not having to keep going back and forth and consulting that list. Pretty much those two things I would do. Make it a lot more talky, back and forthy. Possibly just those two.
Just piggybacking on Ekta's question that she asked, since the research and the resources that you have been taking drawing from are so vast, and like as the bibliography at the end of the book shows,
Absolutely.
like how did you decide what makes in the story and what does not, like when we go about the history of Worley and
Yeah,
stuff like that?
yeah.
And just another question very on similar lines, and how was your relationship with the editor on this book, because there is so much there.
Um, in terms of the history of the city bit, that was again. I mean, that I did face a dilemma in the sense I wasn't sure to begin with whether I want to do it. And once I decided that maybe some bit of context to the city might be required,
Hmm.
because there would not be, there was only so much space in maybe the beginning to give some context and description, because
Right.
towards the middle and the end where the story leads, I did not want to burden a reader with maybe too much description and context, because that's not where you would possibly want it. You would not want too many interruptions. So, I mean, and I was pretty sure I didn't want to include a very dense history of the city, because frankly, there's so much literature, good, amazing literature available on Bombay as it was, and why it is the way it's turned out to be. There's so many amazing books. There's so much to read on the history, and I'm definitely not qualified. I'm not exactly a student of history that way. So I definitely wasn't qualified, but I did in the end decided to at least limit it to give some context on Burley. I mean, just to give a reader an idea, or maybe visualize, or just keep something in the back of their heads when they were reading a bit about Burley. Because, I mean, the question I wanted answered for myself is, why are parts of the city where the story is based? I mean, why have they
Absolutely.
turned out to be the way they have? They didn't just turn out to be the way they have. I mean, it's a process over centuries, right? Over years. So I try to keep it as concise as possible. So I was pretty sure I wanted to do that without maybe, and of course, I mean, again, I wasn't sure how much of the story it would interrupt. It was an interruption. I have heard complaints about that. But again, I felt that that is the only place where it had to go. And on the other bit, my the editor I worked with at HarperCollins India, Bushra Ahmed, who's a senior commissioning editor, she jumped at the book. And my agent was looking out for publishers. Bushra said, I want the story. I just want the story. At any cost, I have to have the story. And yeah, I mean, from the beginning, I mean, you're only a book and a writer is only as good as the editor involved in the end. So my agent Anish Shandy and her Bushra Ahmed, they were the two. I mean, they were two of the persons who shaped the structure editorially because they're very strong with that. I did get a lot of. She is also responsible for me going a bit quite ahead in the research to areas which I would possibly not have thought of earlier, or maybe I thought maybe why are those required. But since she came with a pair of fresh eyes,
Right.
and since true crime is a category of literature she's very interested in, she approached it in a way I possibly would not have imagined the story, approaching the story at all. So she is responsible for me researching a lot more on the forensic side, which maybe earlier I may have thought, do I really need to go in this kind of detail? So
Right.
yeah, I owe a lot of the book, a lot of the detail towards policy, also about how fast how the pacing.
Absolutely.
It's not one of my
Yes.
strongest suits, but she's the one responsible for pacing it up in places. So yeah.
Right. Right.
Also, I would want to congratulate you, Srinath, because the book is absolutely, when it starts, it hooks you, and
Ah.
you just read it like a. You just don't want to put it down. I think the narrative was the book was written very well. I think I liked the style of writing. It was, and while we were discussing this within the group, when we were discussing your book as well, I mean, most of the people had the same opinion that the style of writing was so nice. Doesn't look like that it is coming up as a debut novel, but then again, it goes back to all of those years of research and the work that you have put in, and it clearly shows in the the narrative, the style of writing. So we absolutely kind of enjoyed that bit. And also, one thing that I was a little I was thinking about, that how, and maybe this is my thing, and maybe you could put some light on it, but I just could
Yeah.
not resist not asking you that question. While I was reading this book, and the main character baby, who's who is the protagonist and does everything and is talked about all through the book, and the entire story revolves around her. uh, was it a deliberate choice that there was no vivid image of baby? So did you want that everybody who's reading it should kind of portray baby the way they want to imagine baby? Because when you talk about a drug peddler, or when you talk about somebody, there are different images that come into every reader's mind, or
Yeah.
for that matter, everybody. So when we talk about that, she was very caring for the family. She was a grandmother. She was also like she struggled so much in life. So at every juncture, whenever you define one characteristic of baby, a different image came into my mind, until I saw the real picture, and I was like shocked. I was like, I never thought that baby looked like this. So was it a deliberate choice to keep it not so kind of imaginable or vivid, so that for the readers, or is it just that I felt so?
Oh no, you pretty much answered the question, because that's the thing. If you look her up, I mean, she's everywhere. Right? There's so much
Yeah.
material on her. There's so many pictures. You just literally have to Google her, and you can see
Right.
what she looks like. So,
Yeah.
Right.
and again, the fact that would have struck you is how she just looks like anyone else. Right? She
Yeah.
could look like member of your family or neighbor, friend's mother, grandmother. She looks ordinary.
Right.
She looks just like anyone else. There's nothing
Yeah.
that stands out. So, which is why, I mean, those were the two decisions, because you could look her up, and also, I mean, and because was an ordinary person, there was nothing I wanted to trump up or highlight just for the sake of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, just to slide in a comment, like Ekta said, that you are hooked in right when you start the book. Like, it's like you have done meow meow and started the book. So, but yeah,
I have not.
so
Just to clarify,
but yeah, so from secret sources, we have gotten to know that this book is apparently going to be adapted into a TV series or web series. So we would just like to know, like, if you can throw some light on it, and what is your involvement in the series like, and stuff.
Because I think
Oh,
they
I
would be
cannot. I
definitely
have
taking
been.
some creative freedom, right, Amir?
Mhm.
That's what we were
Yeah,
discussing, right?
yeah.
I have been told not to talk about that.
Okay,
Okay.
Disappointingly, I can tell you not.
okay, okay.
Okay, that's
But on the
perfectly
start,
fine.
I can tell you. I mean, I did want the book to start like very. I mean, like, just burst in your face. I mean,
Yeah,
Right,
I did
right,
not want a slow start.
right,
Prologue aside, I wanted the book to just explode in your face.
right, right.
So
absolutely. And I
that, I
think
mean,
that,
that I was never. I really wanted. I mean, a very fast-paced start, just unexpected something just bursts into your face.
yeah.
Right.
Thank you,
And it
thank you.
also feels so
I'm really glad.
real. It also feels so real when you talk about, the call center scene, when you talk about
Hmm.
very different scenarios. It for maybe for people who are living in Bombay, they would have a imaginary of the places you're talking about. But I think the how you have defined it works very well with people who are not acquainted with Bombay, or they have no idea about how the streets look like, how Worli
Hmm.
looks like, how those gullies look like, and all of that. So I think that those bits where they look so real, and we could, at least I could, kind of relate to it, because I've been working on those in those areas for a very long time. So I could actually feel that, okay, I've seen some of few things happening like this early, and that was quite relatable in that sense. So I think that was really, really nice.
And yeah,
Thank you.
and
That was the idea.
that scene
Yeah.
about him running while on Meow Meow in the night to the Juhu beach is something that is an image that is stuck in my head.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, you. I mean, sometimes you just get lucky with how you meet people.
Right.
Um, I mean, during research, if you're going out reporting, you never know who or what you're going to encounter. So that's just pure luck,
Absolutely.
chancing among someone who has such an incredible story. But yeah, I mean, that I was also quite blown away when I heard something like that, and which is why I thought that is possibly the best way to begin a book like this. Is
Right. Right.
high on energy and
And also needs a lot
substances.
of guts to write such a book, wherein you are kind of unwrapping everything and you are just throwing it on everybody's face. So it was really, something that you really need to, unless and until it shows that it was so thoroughly researched, because otherwise you cannot just put any such fact on paper and
Right.
just move out of it. So I think that was incredible.
I mean, it's like any other work of journalism, and I mean, in daily stories, you cannot be you can't make a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be 100% sure of what you're writing. You have to verify literally everything you're writing, because you will pay for the consequences the next day.
Yeah.
And then in some, and, I mean, and then in an, I mean, such a huge enterprise like this, I mean, I had to be doubly careful. I had to verify multiple times, possibly the same thing. Just make sure, really, if I had heard something that was too good to be true, if it had
Yeah.
actually happened, possibly confirm maybe one event, maybe with two or three people, just to see
Hmm.
if maybe someone is trumping it up or embellishing certain things. A lot of things got left out because they couldn't be verified. And I was pretty sure I didn't want to write anything which I could not verify myself personally,
Yeah.
or someone else couldn't verify for me. So, I mean, and which is why, I mean, we spent about, Upper Collins and I, we spent about 5 to 6 months, the final 5 to 6 months, just making sure it was legally foolproof, watertight. There were no loose ends. There were no scope which could involve maybe legal action at any point. So yeah, I mean, I just approached it as working on any other story, just verifying everything, not making sure. And because this involves writing about people who are still living, there was just that much less room for error or mistake. It's just could not countenance making an error on those
Absolutely. And that shows in the book, I must say.
outcomes.
So Srinath, we also have a very quick rapid fire round for you, wherein we want
Oh
to
wow!
ask you some questions. Very general questions. We are not going to make it controversial like Coffee with Karan, so you can be rest
Even better.
assured.
Even better.
So yeah, Neeraj, would you want to start?
Yes, I was just wondering, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas
Oh,
Adams.
Douglas
Beautiful.
Adams. Lot many people talk about that book, and that is like such a favorite of I think so
So
many
many
people talks
people.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, too many
Yeah.
He's
people.
one of my, I mean, I think I've pretty much read everything Douglas Adams has written in the last 4 or 5 years, and I should have read it much earlier. I realized now. Okay. That
Awesome.
one.
And what are you currently reading?
At the moment, don't have it with me. I've been actually reading 2 or 3 things I decided. I discovered 30-year-old India Today editions at home.
Oh,
So I've
wow.
been going back to see what the world was like, what Bombay was like 30 years ago.
Beautiful.
I just finished reading a couple of Batman comics, just
Wow.
something
Wow.
as a side. So yes, those two. I mean, at the moment, yes, India Today. But if you'd asked me like a couple of maybe a week ago, it was. I mean, a book that I finished a week ago was the biography of the Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts.
Oh, amazing. Nice.
Okay, so I'll just ask my question quickly. Are you investigating any case right now? And if yes, then would you like to tell us about it if possible?
I'm not, I mean, no, I'm not investigating
Yeah.
anything currently. I'm just working on a couple stories on the side. And no, I am a bit superstitious about telling
Okay.
beforehand before they're published. So it's one, not very superstitious, but yes, with this one thing, yes.
All right, so here is an easy question then. Any book
Finally.
so, no, I was just kidding. So here, I mean, since we are a book club, any book that you would recommend? I mean, of course, Meow Meow is recommended to everyone,
Yeah.
but apart from your book, any book that you would recommend for our readers?
Oh yeah, I have a couple. This is one that I was reading initially during the research phase. If anyone has heard or hasn't heard of William Burroughs, it's called
Oh
Jungle.
my
Yes,
God, the
obviously.
cover
It's a
Yeah.
very
looks
slim
so.
volume.
Yeah.
It's a slim volume. It's semi-autobiographical, but
Wow.
Yeah.
I recommend. It's not an easy read.
Yeah.
You might want to take some breaks, but
The
again,
cover
I
is
mean, I found
phenomenal.
myself. Yeah,
Nothing
I
bad.
found myself reading this really quickly.
Yeah.
Also, for 2 reasons. I needed to get done with this quickly, but again, it's a superb book. It's about biographical account of overdosing and recovering from heroin use.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's one I'd recommend. The other I'd recommend is another that I borrowed from my friends, and it actually it helped me writing in terms of revising the final draft. But again, it stands on its own. For anyone who hasn't heard of My Traitor's Heart, it's from a journalist, South African journalist, and his
Yes.
account of covering apartheid, South Africa.
Very, very popular book at one point in time.
Yeah. So anyone who
Yes.
hasn't read this, and yeah,
Fantastic.
these
Just
two,
to
I
add a bit
definitely.
of advertisement here, you don't need to borrow books from your friends. We have an online library, Srinath.
Even better, right?
So the next time you need any book, you know where to.
Look
Yeah.
for.
Yes, and I'm sure my friends don't have everything I'm looking for. So yes.
So Srinath, one more question I want to ask you. I mean, is it always something which is non-fiction is of your, which interests you so much, or is it fiction that you feel that it has also the element of non-fiction and you want to pick that up and you read that?
I like reading both. I mean, I've read a lot more fiction in life than non-fiction. I mean, that balance is tilted towards fiction. Non-fiction, I'm a bit picky about picking up. I'm not always sure if I'm going to like a non-fiction book,
Right.
and I'm more inclined towards non-fiction. I mean, if it's a work of journalism, again, I mean, 9 times out of 10, if I pick up work of non-fiction, it generally tends to be an account of a story which someone's maybe reported over the years or months, or if it tells you that it's a reporter who's worked on some story for months and years, I'm definitely going to buy it or borrow in that case.
Amazing.
But yeah, I mean, that in terms of fiction, again, then I become even more picky in terms of fiction. I generally, I don't read everything. I won't say I read every new thing that comes out. Um, and I'm not going to pretend I have like a very discerning or varied taste. It's just whatever I feel like at the moment.
Amazing.
But I generally tend to gravitate towards, books that involve humor, something that's a bit funny. Not necessarily a light read. I generally go. Which is why I love The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Right.
It's a dense book, but it's so funny.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And any new book or project that you are working on?
Again, I'm a bit superstitious about putting things out there at the moment,
But
and
you
I've
gave us
realized
some
now.
hints that you wanted to read some book, you wanted to finish it. You're doing some research which gives us some idea. So we'll leave you at that.
Yeah, I've just been generally going back to some of the older stories that I'd covered when I was about 7, 8 years ago. Because
Right.
like with this, um, there are times. Every few months it hits me too, and I remember maybe I should look into what happened. Some story that I maybe reported, or someone else, or someone friend had reported 6, 7, or 5 years ago, just to see where it's at. It's always interesting that way to go back in time, or just
Right.
because maybe you discover while you weren't on that story something remarkable has happened. So these days I'm more looking back in time just to see, update myself and see if there's a story to do there.
Awesome, awesome. And one last thing, Srinath, we want to, unless and until Neeraj or Amir, do you have any questions?
No, we are good.
So before we conclude this, just one last thing I wanted to ask you. If you have something to talk to our readers and tell them, from the readers from Reader Kitab Book Club and in readers in general, anything that you would want to, talk about or give us, a suggestion or a piece of word.
I guess read more journalism. My favorite people are my fellow reporters. It's just read more journalism. In terms of books, news articles, wherever you can. Long form is. I know. Not a lot of journalists tend to end up writing books.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You don't always have the time as a daily beat reporter to come out with the books. So, if you ever find, or if you ever come across a book that a reporter or a journalist in India or Mumbai, wherever you stay, has written, please pick it up. A lot of work goes into those. It's really not
Absolutely.
easy. You have to give up a lot of time. Not everyone, I couldn't juggle a daily job with that. But I had the choice. Not everyone, the best reporters somehow manage to juggle their jobs and write books. Alongside, I have the most respect for people who are able to juggle their day jobs and do this, because now I found out how difficult doing something so big is. So yeah, please, if you ever come across, please read more reporters, read more journalism. We do need people reading more journalism these days.
There is a very interesting question for you. There is this
Yeah.
person who asks, how can we get the book signed from you?
Oh, how do we get the books signed? I actually haven't scheduled any of those. I am in the process of hopefully scheduling something like that. It's been a month since it's come out. In the
Yes.
process of
Right.
scheduling a few signing sessions. I was just waiting for more and more people to
Read it.
and now it is very clear that a good number of people have read it.
Right.
So yeah, you will hear from me, because that's one of the things I'm most interested in and quite excited, in fact, in doing. Setting up something like a signing, going to stores, or just landing up at some space and signing those. So you will hear from me. I am not good. That's one thing I am very keen on doing. I just
Amazing.
haven't planned anything. At the moment, no, nothing planned. But yes, there will be something happening very soon.
So you all have to follow Srinath's Instagram account, that is @Sri something, and you can also follow us, because we will definitely share whenever he's going to come up with some signing opportunity, because we will be there, that's for sure. So
Yeah, I would
so
like that. Yes.
we will keep you posted, and you can follow him, and you'll get all the updates. Thank you so much. Thank you
Of
so much,
course.
Srinath. It was so amazing talking to you, and
Yeah.
to all the
Thank you
readers who
so
are
much. Definitely.
to all the readers who are there, please pick up the book. It's available on all the stores. It's also available on Amazon. We have a link in our on our Instagram page. You can go ahead, you can check the link, and you can directly buy it. And give us a shout out. Give a shout out to Srinath. Tell him, how did you feel about the book. Tell us, how did you feel about the book, and we would love to hear from you. And thank you so much,
Yeah.
Srinath.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
pleasure
much.
talking to you guys. And if someone does need the cast of characters simplifying, please tell. Please tell.
Oh my God.
It might be required. I agree with you. It might be required.
See, book clubs can definitely come up with some interesting
Oh, of
ideas.
course. Yeah, I mean, it's only now when I speak to people who actually read it, now I realize, yes, these things are required.
That's so gracious of you, and generous as well. Thank you. It was lovely talking to you.
Yeah,
Hope to
yeah,
talk
pleasure
to you
talking to you guys.
again
Amin,
soon.
Neeraj, Ekta. Thanks
Thank
for
you
the
so
time.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks.
See
Thank
you.
you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Have a great night.